Newcastle United are one of 3 teams that are unbeaten and third in the league. You could basically say joint second with Arsenal. And you know what? They've not even been anywhere near their best. And is that a statement from Newcastle saying, look, we've got players that are capable of winning us games in moments when we're not at our best? We've got Tonali to come in properly, players to return. We didn't even have a transfer window, basically, so they're probably going to spend it in January. Are we sleeping on Newcastle United? Because I'm a Man United fan and I did my Premier League predictions, and I think I predicted Newcastle to finish 5th. I actually predicted Newcastle to finish above Manchester United this season, which sounds weird saying that as a United fan, although I did say that before the end of the transfer window when I was assuming Newcastle were going to sign Gay and a right wing at the time. They didn't. But I have to say, Newcastle have these 20-minute spells in games where they're really, really good, but they're not controlling games as a whole. But they've got the quality, they've got the players, and I do think that they could have a very good season. So we're going to break down Newcastle Wolves. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the match. Harvey Barnes, wow, what a player, what an output monster. Tonali, very good. Fabian Shaw, one of the most underrated players in the league. I did my underrated 11 back in March, and it had Fabian Shaw and Anderson of Crystal Palace, who's obviously left now, as my 2 centre-backs. You know, I think that Newcastle got very good teams and very good players, and I think Wolves made it difficult for them. And I think they really good for about 20, 25 minutes, dropped off a bit, didn't really, just lacked that final ball. Gordon almost scored a brilliant goal, actually. And then I think they grew sort of back into the game. I think the goal from Harvey Barnes, so the goal from Shaw gave them momentum. Barnes scores, and they could have scored right at the end there through Barnes, wasn't it? And I think that Newcastle have some good players. They're building something good, I think. I think they'll have a January window because they must have a fair bit of money to spend. And obviously, I know Eddie Howe's a good manager. Now, if you want my honest opinion, I think Eddie Howe got his starting 11 wrong today. I think he got it wrong. But Newcastle, because they haven't got the injury crisis they had last year, they had so many options off the bench to change the game. Willock and Tonali coming into midfield, I thought Newcastle looked a lot better. So I'm going to break down the Newcastle game, but I want to talk about Tonali, Willock, Harvey Barnes and Fabian Shaw. I'm going to do a section on those 4 players. And I'm just going to give you my opinion as a Manchester United fan, a completely neutral fan watching the game. My stepdad's a Wolves fan, actually, so I was like winding him up. So part of me did actually want Newcastle to win so I could wind him up, but from a neutral perspective as well. So first 20 to 25 minutes, I thought Newcastle were very good both on and off the ball. I thought they looked a lot better because I think when Fabian Shaw got that red card and was suspended, what I noticed was that Newcastle, I think they were struggling to play out from the back a little bit more. Breaking the lines and stuff, because I think Fabian Shaw is one of the best ball-playing centre-backs in the world. I think he's very underrated. I think he's probably top 3 in the Premier League, actually. Really good on the ball, playing the ball, breaking the lines. And I thought they looked a lot better on the ball, breaking the lines, playing, getting it through, like getting up to ease it, getting up the pitch progression. I thought they looked a lot better. But then they went like that, didn't they? I thought off the ball they were structurally quite good. I actually thought for the goal, like it wasn't a bad goal to concede structurally. Tactically, it was, I think Dan Burn could have done better. And I think it was almost not so much the tactics, but the starting 11 that Eddie Howe picked that caused the problems. Like, I think you saw the difference between Tonali and Longstaff later on in the game. I think Wolves, are a good team. They had a bit of control of the game. And I think Newcastle in their last couple of games have had a 20-minute spell where they're really good. Maybe another 10, 15-minute spell where they're really good. But they're having, spending half the game where they're not at their best. And I think that's something they need to work on. But they're clinical. You've got Isak, didn't obviously score today, but you know that he's clinical. You've got Barnes and you've got Gordon. You've got 3 really good attackers that mean output. Murphy obviously brings work rate support, all of that as well. But I think long-term Newcastle will be looking at a right winger to upgrade Murphy. They did put a bid in for Elanga. But Harvey Barnes in particular is an output monster. We're going to speak about him. He gives me elements of Trossard, but just his right foot when he cuts in from the left-hand side is just a different gravy to Trossard, though. But I think Nick Pope deserves a shout. I thought he was really good. I think when Nick Pope got injured, I think the biggest absence was Joel Linton and the midfield injuries to Newcastle. But also, I think Botman's injury was massive, but Nick Pope's injury was massive as well. He might not always be the best on the ball, but he makes really good saves. He's got that element of David De Gea in the sense of David De Gea wasn't the best on the ball. And United fans used to get annoyed at him with that. But the amount of times David De Gea would save Ollie's job, or save Mourinho's job, or save Van Gaal's job. Do you know what I mean? Not saying that Nick Pope is saving Eddie Howe's job, but very good shot stopper, very good save to keep Newcastle in the game. Because I'm going to say this. If you want to be a top side, and that's what Newcastle want to be with the Saudi takeover, they're like the richest club in the world, you've got to be able to win games when you're not at your best. You've got to be able to have players that are game winners. Tottenham Hotspur dominated the game, but they were poor in the final third. Newcastle defended well. You got a game winner in Harvey Barnes. You got a game winner in Isak. And I'd say Gordon's a game winner as well. I think he got a goal contribution versus every top 6 club last season. And what Newcastle have is quality. They have game winners, and they've got a generally good squad. And Newcastle aren't at their best, not playing anywhere near the best. They're getting results with System E. When Newcastle are at their best, they're going to be getting results and putting in good performances rather than good 20-minute spells here and there. And it says to me there's a lot to come from Newcastle, because Tottenham was not an easy game. There's a lot to come from them. There's a good team there, and I think they played quite well in elements of today's game. I thought the opening 25 minutes, they were good. I think the final ball was a bit sloppy. Maybe Byrne could have done better for the goal. Obviously, it was moments of magic that laid them out. And I remember the season Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came second with Manchester United behind City. United weren't always at their best, but they had those moments of magic through Bruno and Rashford to bail them out. And that's kind of what Newcastle remind me of, to be honest. So let's talk about Harvey Barnes, because I've spent 6 minutes waffling. And I actually want to get into players. So I saw this from Tom Talks Toon. Harvey Barnes is a Champions League level ball striker. Absolutely agree. I think ball striking, best Newcastle have, elite at that. 2 goals, 1 assist in 158 minutes of PL players in Newcastle wing of the season. 7 goals and 4 assists since joining, so 11 goal contributions. He's averaging a goal contribution every 52 minutes this season, but since joining every 87 minutes, that is output. Now, I did a video when you sold St. Maximin and you signed Harvey Barnes, and that was, I think, was one of the first videos I did on this channel, because I only started it properly last July. And I said that, I saw a lot of negativity because Newcastle fans didn't want St. Maximin to go because he's good on the ball, he's a good dribbler. But I said I think this is a smart move from Newcastle, because to go up that next level, you need players with end product. I think St. Maximin, dribbler, more aesthetically pleasing, can do maybe things that Harvey Barnes can't do. But he didn't have the end product, goals and the assists, and when you want to go up that level, you need the goals and assists. And Harvey Barnes had a lot of injuries last season, but he's really starting to show what he brings. I rode on Harvey Barnes, outstanding, performed well I think in patches last season, but this season he's shown why Newcastle signed him. I also think his work rate looks better. I think sometimes he wasn't maybe used to the work rate that Eddie Howe demands when he first joined Newcastle. I think he's been Newcastle's probably best player this season, just because of the impact he's had coming off the bench. He's a match winner, cutting inside from the left. He's just cheat code with those shots. And as I said, he reminds me of Trossard from Arsenal with his ball striking. Trossard would come off the bench for Arsenal. Not always the best when he started, but he'd come off the bench to Arsenal, he'd always score. And he would score like a half chunk because he's a very good finisher. Now, Trossard doesn't score screens outside the box. Harvey Barnes is like, you know how James Ward-Prowse is sort of known for free kicks? Harvey Barnes is known for his trademark cut inside, outside the box, screamer shots. But I think Harvey Barnes reminds me of Trossard, apart from the fact that he just scores probably better goals in that sense as well. And averaging a goal contribution every 87 minutes since joining Newcastle shows he hasn't played a lot, because only 11 goal contributions, but he's got the output that St. Maximin didn't have, and that's what's going to win Newcastle matches. The output in Isak, the output in Barnes, and Gordon's got output, and you can see Gordon work. But let's talk about Fabian Shaw. Unbelievable goal. Both the goals were unbelievable. We had the Jean Duran goal yesterday for Villa. We've had the Shaw goal, the Harvey Barnes goal. It's been a really good weekend for goals, I think, in the Premier League as well. But let's talk about Fabian Shaw. 3 million. That's got to be one of the best signings Newcastle have done, because he was there in the Mike Ashley era as well. Like, he's proven that he could go at that level. He's one of those players that, has come all the way from when Newcastle were like relegation, and he's a baller. I think, as I said, I think Newcastle better in build up with him. I think on the ball he's one of the best players. The strike was unbelievable. Helped break the lines with ease. Very good on the ball. And I think he brings that experience and composure. And I think that's the one area that Newcastle have to worry about, because I think Shaw had a better season last year than Botman. Botman was obviously injured, but it's replacing Shaw. What Newcastle need is he's aging. He's a very good player for you, very good servant. It's replacing him and getting that right winger that's going to challenge Murphy, because Gordon and Barnes both prefer the left. That's what Newcastle need to work on. That's what I've seen them working on in the summer. But having watched Mark Gay, 60 million for Mark Gay, I get it. Any more than 60 million for Mark Gay, he's not worth more than 60 million, particularly because he'll have 18 months left on his contract come January. But there's some really good right centre-backs in the market. I'm surprised that Newcastle never looked at someone like Todd, if I was going to be totally honest. I think there was a lot of good right centre, like Malik Chow would have been a good one. There was a lot of good right centre-backs in the market. Usman Diamonde. So I'm surprised that you guys were just so focused on Gay. They started doing Maguire sort of pricing for him. I think Gay is a good player and would have been a great addition to Newcastle, but I think Fabian Shaw, but he's had a much better start to the season than Gay. Actually, no, he hasn't, because he was red carded. But I watched Gay the other week, and I know he's a good player, but he's not a 70 million player. And he's not, obviously, Shaw hasn't the best start of the season because he's been out, but I think he just looks really good. Joe Willock. Let's talk about him. This is what I wrote about Joe Willock like a couple months ago. He can play line-breaking passes and make strong charging runs, helping Newcastle with progression and more. His pace, power, and energy, especially his forward drive, make him such an important player. I believe the team looks better with him in it. That's what I said. And I think it's difficult because I think Tonali, Joelinton, Bruno Guimaraes is probably what I'd pick as Newcastle's best midfield three. And then Willock's someone that comes off the bench and brings a different dynamic with his energy. And then you've got Lewis Miley and obviously Longstaff also on the bench. The problem with Joe Willock is he can't stay fit. There's no doubt in my mind he's a quality player. He can bring that drive to Newcastle. He just can't stay fit. But he's so good when it comes to his running. He's off the ball, his running, his directness, playing the ball, the quick 1-2s forward. If you want to move the ball quickly, if you want transition opportunities, if you want someone that drive, Joe Willock can do that. He brings energy to Newcastle. He brings something unique. And I think he will work really well with Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes because Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes move the ball quickly and he is the runner. I think that it works really well. I think Joelinton in the physical games, like a West Ham or Wolves, where it's going to be physical in the middle part, you want a Joelinton. But if it's going to be a bit less of a physical game, and you're going to have a bit more space, maybe a Joe Willock suits that with his running. I thought he was really good, and I thought he worked well with Tonali. And this is what I wanted to get to, and I spent 11 minutes to get to this point. Sorry for waffling. But I think the way that Tonali, when he gets the ball, he moves it quickly. Quick one-touch passes. When you've got runners like Willock and you're playing those quick one-touch passes, it's really difficult for Wolves to defend against. And Newcastle's playing progression, going forward, and then ability to create chances because there's more space for them to open up Wolves, just goes up a level. I think Tonali, since his return, has looked sharp since coming off the bench. I think him and Barnes probably made a case for starting the next game. I think he can contribute to goals well. I think his technical levels are needed. I think he's a lot technically better than Sean Longstaff, and you could see that. One on the ball, he's a lot more comfortable. Eddie Howe wants a more possession-based approach moving forward, and Tonali's a lot more comfortable on the ball than Longstaff. Longstaff's going to put a shift off the ball. He's going to give 100%, but he has limitations on the ball where Tonali will take Newcastle up a level. His ability to play progressive passes. When he gets the ball, he moves it quickly, doesn't hold on to it, plays it forward, plays progressive passes, helps Newcastle get the game flowing. And I thought that Willock, Bruno, Joelinton and Tonali's 4 really good options that Newcastle have as well. Newcastle fans, let me know your thoughts down below. You are 3rd in the league, even though you probably haven't been at your best. And what a start from you guys. Thank you for watching. Bye.